I heard my wife tell our closest friends in my own dining room on our own anniversary that I was dead weight. Not tired, not slowing down, dead weight. The table went silent in a way I'd never heard a room go silent before. And I sat there and smiled, like a man who hadn't just been gutted in front of 12 people who'd known me for 30 years. I thought that was the worst night of my life. It wasn't even close. At 11 that same night, my phone rang, and a woman I'd never spoken to asked for me by name, calling on behalf of my wife's attorney. In 4 minutes, she told me things about my marriage, my company, and my future that I hadn't known an hour earlier. My name is Harold Voss. I'm 65. I build furniture, or I used to build it with my own hands before running the company took over. I live outside Asheville in a house I paid off 9 years ago. I always believed hard work and loyalty got returned in kind. I was wrong enough about that to nearly lose everything. I started Voss Woodworks in a 2-car garage in 1997. By last year, we had 40 employees and an 11-month waiting list. My wife Linda's name sat on the incorporation papers right beside mine, because back then we did everything together. We raised 2 kids, our son Bradley, 30, nominally our VP of sales, and our daughter Kayla, 27, a kindergarten teacher who calls me every week just to check in, never to ask for anything. Remember that detail. 4 months before that anniversary dinner, I had a mild stroke at my table saw. 4 days in the hospital, 6 weeks of therapy, relearning how to grip a pencil. I came back slower, my right hand shaking by the end of long days. I handed more shop work to my foreman, Ray Okafor, a man I trusted like family. I didn't know it yet, but that stroke had also started a clock for certain people in my life. The anniversary dinner fell on a Saturday in late September, 32 years to the day. 14 guests, our pastor, neighbors, my sister, Bradley and his girlfriend, Kayla, alone, and our CFO, Craig Bellamy, with his wife, Nora. For the first hour, it was everything it should have been. Then someone asked how the business transition was going. Linda set down her wine glass, smiled her church smile, and said I'd been such a trooper about stepping back. Then she turned to Nora and said the sentence I'll never get out of my head. Honestly, some days he's just dead weight around here, but we love him anyway. The silence that followed wasn't a polite pause. It was the kind where you hear ice shift in a glass. My daughter set her napkin down slow and deliberate. I looked at my wife of 32 years. She wasn't even looking at me. She was refilling Nora's plate. I laughed. I said something about somebody having to carry the weight. The table relaxed. Under it, my hand was shaking, and it wasn't the stroke. At 11:14, my phone lit up. An unfamiliar number. A woman named Patricia Vance, an attorney's associate, calling about closing documents for tomorrow's sale. I stepped into the hallway. "What sale?" I asked. There was a long pause, the kind where you can hear someone's stomach drop. She realized she had the wrong understanding of who already knew what, and to her credit, instead of hanging up, she told me to bring my own attorney to a conversation the next morning. I didn't sleep. The next day I found an attorney named Elliot Marsh, who brought in a private investigator, Ray Delgado. Within 2 weeks, the picture was complete. Linda had consulted a divorce attorney 11 days after my hospital admission, before I'd even regained full grip strength. Her plan: file for divorce citing my diminished capacity, force a court-approved sale of the company to a private equity firm for $2.1 million, a business appraised at closer to $4 million. My CFO, Craig, had been secretly courting that firm for nearly a year, standing to collect a finder's fee north of $150,000. My foreman, Ray, had noticed Craig asking strange questions about equipment liquidation value months earlier. and had quietly kept his own dated notebook of every red flag just in case. Worse, phone records showed Linda and Craig's relationship went back 14 months. The first message time-stamped the night of a company holiday party I'd left early with a headache, the earliest warning sign of the stroke that came 4 months later. When I called my son to ask if he'd known, he hesitated, then admitted the buyers had offered him $100,000 to stay quiet. He hadn't said no. My daughter, when I finally told her everything, said only, "Dad, I don't care about the money. I'm not going anywhere." I chose to handle it quietly instead of loudly. I filed a formal objection to the sale, froze company accounts under my majority authority, and referred the financial fraud, over $90,000 funneled through a shell vendor tied to Craig's brother-in-law, to the district attorney. Then I gathered everyone at my table one more time, under the pretense of a calm conversation. My attorney walked in with a single folder. I laid out the timeline, the fraud, the texts, calmly, without raising my voice once. Craig's wife walked out without a word. My son finally admitted, in front of everyone, what he'd been offered. The sale collapsed. Craig was terminated and charged. Linda and I divorced 3 months later on far more modest terms than she'd once expected. She kept the house I no longer wanted. I restructured the company, giving Ray a real 15% stake and the title he'd earned 15 years ago. I set up an irrevocable trust for my daughter, funded generously, so nothing could ever be quietly taken from her the way it was almost taken from me. I still go into the shop most mornings. My hands still shake some days. But there's a peace in that building now, because everyone standing in it actually wants to be there. I think about that dinner sometimes, the phrase that broke something open in me. I understand now she never meant the second half of that sentence at all, and I learned something I never expected to learn at 65. The people who carry you when it matters are rarely the ones sitting closest to you at the table. If Harold's story moved you, hit like, tell us in the comments what you would have done in his place, and subscribe to Aftermath Tales for more powerful stories like this one.